Greetings, it's Ian from RTO here. Welcome to the last quarter-final of the Battle Royale. And today it's Simon Vinyl Dale against Beatles, Sgt Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band against Pulsar's Yes, Close to the Edge. Out of the hat first was Sgt Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, which is the 8th studio album by the Beatles, and it was released in 1967. So leading up to that, the Beatles were getting tired of doing live performances, and John Lennon has been said to say they could send out 4 waxworks, which would satisfy the crowds. Beatles concerts have got nothing to do with music anymore, they're just tribal rights. So when they'd finished Revolver, they set off for a tour that would have started in West Germany. But while in Hamburg, they had a little telegram saying that do not go to Tokyo, your life is in danger. The threat was taken quite seriously by the band, and it's all to do with Japan's religious conservative groups, with particular opposition to the Beatles' planned performance at the sacred Nippon Budokan Arena. So they didn't like them playing there. Everyone plays at the Budokan. They performed in the Philippines, where they were threatened and manhandled again. So there was a lot of controversy, and that was that. Performed, and I think I can understand why they finished. Because the group were angry with their manager and Brian Epstein for insisting that what they regarded as an exalting and demoralising itinerary. So he got the vault of that. So after all that, they decided to go into the studio to record Sgt Pepper's. So the intro to Sgt Pepper's is its opening line. It was 20 years ago today. It just introduces an historical perspective on pop music delivered in what music journalist Chris Ingram terms as McCartney's best little Richard Holler. Yes, so it starts off with them 10 comes of sounds in a pit orchestra with them wonderful lines, and then you get this rhetoric rock concert banter. It's quite a good little opener, isn't it? And then I guess the track goes with comes in with a little help from my friends, amidst the scratch sound of screaming fans recorded during a Beatles concert at the Hollywood Bowl. In his role as Billy Shear's star, Ringo Starr contributes to a baritone lead vocal that Womack credits as imparting the element of earnestness in sharp contrast with the iconic distance of the track. The song was written by Lennon and McCartney deliberately with the limited range to suit Ringo's voice. So there you go. They wrote the song so Ringo could star. So the lyrics are centered on a theme of questions at the beginning, with Starr asking the audience whether they would leave if he sang out of tune. Interesting piece of information there, isn't it? So next is Lucy in the Sky of Diamonds. Now there's this widespread suspicion that the title Lucy in the Sky of Diamonds contained hidden reference to LSD, but John insisted that it was derived from a pastel drawing by his 4-year-old son Julian, a hallucinatory chapter from Lewis Carroll's novel Through the Looking Glass, a favourite of John Lennon's, inspired the song's atmosphere. So it's nothing to do with drugs, it was all to do with Julian's picture. But they say the first verse begins with Picture yourself in a boat on a river, and continues with imaginative imagery, including tangerine dreams, rocking horse people. Yeah. You can understand why I thought it was written on LSD, but there you go. Up next was Getting Better. A lot of people say this is one of the best performances on the Sgt Pepper album. It's been quoted that it's a strong example of Lennon and McCartney's collaborative songwriting, particularly in Lennon's addition to the line "I can't get no worse," which served as a sarcastic rejoinder to McCartney's chorus, "It's getting better all the time." Quite little tune. Then we go on to Fixing the Hole. Now this deals with Paul's desire to let his mind wander freely and to express his creativity without the burden of self-conscious insecurities. There's some distracted and inverted tracks during which Paul foregoes the usual smooth design in favour of something a bit more preoccupied. He cites George's electric guitar solo as serving the track well and capturing its mood. Up next is She's Leaving Home. Now this addresses the problem of alienation between disagreeing people, particularly those that distance each other by the generation gaps. Paul McCartney's narrative details the plight of a young woman escaping the control of her parents, and is inspired by a piece about a teenage runaways that was published in the Daily Mail. It's the first track on the Peppers that choose the use of guitars and drums, featuring a string nonette with harp. Yes. Interesting track, isn't it? Then we have From the Benefit of Mr. Kite. Now, John Lennon adapted the lyrics for Being the Benefit of Mr. Kite from an 1843 poster of Pablo Frantic Circus that he had purchased at an antique shop in Kent while they were filming Strawberry Fields Forever. John Lennon had to evoke a circus of atmosphere so vivid he could smell the sawdust. Interesting. And it's created with recordings of harmoniums and harmonicas as well. Then we go on to Within Without You from George Harrison. He's still involved with the Hindustani classical music, inspired about the teachings of Hindu Vedas and the music of Indian things. George Harrison recorded the song in London with Indian-based musicians of the Asian Music Circle. Then he and George Martin worked on the Western string arrangements and imitated the slides and bends of a typical Indian music. Never been a particular favourite of mine. Then we have the quirky When I'm 64. So, Paul McCartney's When I'm 64 is a song aimed chiefly at parents, borrowing heavily from the English musical style of George Formby. So it has got that sort of feel to it, while invoking images of illustrator Donald McGill's Seaside Postcards. So you've got old-time musical and then postcards. Say it's got the songs of ragtime pop, adding that its position following Within Without You, a blend of that Indian music, so it sort of moves on there. There's a harmonic pattern that we can trace to Scott Joplin's The Ragtime Dance and Blue Daniel by Johann Strauss. So there's all sorts going into this. So up next is Lovely Rita. Lovely Rita is a work of full tilt psychedelia that contrasts sharply with the preceding track. Paul McCartney drew inspiration from learning that the American term for a female traffic warden was a meter maid. So it's all inane of traffic wardens. The arrangement includes a quartet of comb and paper kazoos. Interesting, isn't it? A piano solo played by George Martin. So there's all sorts of things, paper and combs on Beatles tracks. Sewing thing they were. Okay, Good Morning, Good Morning. It's a Lennon-inspired track after watching the television commercial for Kellogg's Cornflakes. The GIF and the jingle which he adapted from the song's refrain. The track uses a bluesy mixolydian mode in A, which perfectly expressed Lennon's grievance against complacency. The song is sharply in contrast with She's Leaving Home, providing the more avant-garde suburban life. Interesting, isn't it? And then we have the Sgt Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band reprise. It's a little CQ that follows the finale. This is a hard rocking song version of Sgt Pepper's. It's to do with them after Neil Aspinall, their road manager, suggested that since Sgt Pepper's opened the album, the fictional band should make an appearance near the end. Sung by all four Beatles, the reprise omits the brass section and it's got a more rocky tempo with George Harrison. And that takes us to A Day in the Life. The thing that everyone remembers is that last call that admits audience applause and an acoustic strumming. That's the bit that everything, and it's a harrowing song at the end. But it consists of 4 verses, a bridge, 2 orchestral crescendos. It was the first crescendo served as a C groove between the third and verse and the middle part, leading to a bridge known as the Dream Sequence, which is absolutely beautiful. Lennon drew inspiration for the lyrics from a Daily Mail report on potholes in Lancashire, of all places, and an article in the paper relating to the death of the Beatles' friend and Guinness heir Tara Brown. So what an inspiration, potholes and the death of their friend. So there we go. That's some of the stories behind how the songs came together. So good luck with that one, Simon. It's an interesting album, isn't it, with how them songs come together. But you've got a strong contender, probably one of the greatest prog albums, and that is Yes, He's Close to the Edge, which was the 5th album released in September of '72, and of course it was the last one that featured Bill Bruford. So there's only 3 tracks on here, but the first one, of course, is the 18-minute epic Close to the Edge. Now this was written by John Anderson and Steve Howe. It marked the longest track that Yes had recorded at that time. Now John gained initial inspiration from a moment in his hotel room during the Fragile tour, while he was reading Lord of the Rings and listening to Symphonies No. 6 and 7 by Jean Sibelius, one of his favourite composers. The 7th struck Anderson at the most. He noticed the main theme introduced sometime in the composition. So he discussed this idea with Steve, and during a little break, they resumed writing it at Steve's house in Hampstead in North London, and Howe devised the lyric Close to the Edge, round by the corner. It's self-inspired that when he lived in Battersea, an area beside the River Thames. And then John was inspired the bass and theme of the lyrics of the Cithara by German novelist Hermann Hesse, and revised the song's lyrics 3 or 4 times, saying all its metaphors. The lyrics for the lyric concluding the verse, based on a dream he once had about passing on from his one world to the other. Really psychedelic things, isn't it? There's also a look at tape's loop induction, combination of keyboard and natural sounds, including flowing water, birds cheeping, recorded on long locations, measuring approximately 40 feet in length and 2 days to record. The birds are an instrumental section in I Get Up, Get Down, inspired him from the bird singing, and the electric ambient sounds. So, and it's sort of this fusion thing. They opened up. They played with the Manavishi Orchestra, so that some of that inspiration from their music was put into this. So there we go. That's a lot going into that first track. There's so much more, but it would bore you to tears on it. You can go and look all this up. So let's look at side 2, and that opens up with the magnificent "And You and I." Originated as a more of a folk-orientated song that John Anderson developed, of the idea of building a theme as the track progresses. It is in 4 sections. It's in a style of themes were worked out by Steve, Bill and Chris on the musical side of it, but it's only credited as Bruford and Squire as the writers. John Anderson pitched in his ideas of the tracks while strumming chords on the guitar and singing the section where the first lyrics come from. If that was the film, Hal particularly enjoyed it and was keen to develop on this little piece. John said its working title was The Protest Song. In its original form, the song extended the Welsh that ending that describes a shattering climax. It did, but that version sort of fell flat and the band didn't like it, so they came up with this. And there's a little bit that's in the bit which sounds like a bit of a hymn, and then there's this lovely 12-string guitar bit on it as well. So that came from that. So Siberian Catro. John said this is a more straightforward song developed from an idea that he had on the acoustic guitar. He did not have the entire track worked out, so the rest of the group took sections where he needed help and discussed. So this is a proper collaboration. So how did I get the title of the song? It comes from Catro, translated as you wish in the Yemi dialect Arabic, but had no idea what the word meant. Some of the music is inspired by Igor Stravinsky. Some of that sort of sounding, and you can tell it's got a little bit of that. And the guitar solo was more of an experiment by placing one microphone by the amplifier and having an assistant swing the microphone to create a Doppler effect. John Frusciante of Red Hot Chili Peppers cited that the closing solo has an influence on his own guitar solo on Get On Top. The band sound is really big, and they've got playing fast, and then the clean guitar comes through out over the top. It's beautiful, he said. So you can just imagine it. Steve playing the guitar solo and someone swinging a microphone. I mean, that's all created on computer these days, but in them days it was done off the hop. So good luck with that one, Pulsar. Let's bring back up Sgt Pepper's. Here we have 2 albums with how you've got the Beatles songs coming from things that they read in the paper and things that are going on, and being experimental as well. Very experimental how they put that album together. And then you've got Yes doing the same thing in 1972, taking inspirations from classical pieces of music, coming up with different ways to get the sound across, being inspired by other bands, touring with the Manavishu Orchestra, made them, gave them some ideas. I mean, but my favourite story is the swinging second microphone around the room to create the Doppler effect, and it's great on that solo on that track. So there we go. Good luck to both of you on this. So it's now down to you guys. So where do you vote? There's only one place to vote. You'll need to go to the community page in the channel. Go down, find the little picture of the two albums, and there is a link to where you can vote, and it's one vote, one person, one IP address. Opens at 2 p.m. today and closes at midnight next Wednesday. And on next Thursday's live stream, Dave will let you know who won, and that'll be the semi-finals complete. We've already, what have we got so far? Well, we've got Who's Next, and we've got the Sex Pistols. We'll find out who's the third one later today on the live stream. So I've really enjoyed going through how these tracks were developed. During the semi-finals, we'll be looking at how they've sold, not just at the beginning, and how they've sort of sold through the years, and how many. So that's what we'll be doing during the semi-finals. Okay, that's all for this. I'll be back later, and we've got Pick and Mix, and we're going in the camera's view this week, and it is a DVD that I've got featuring Mr. Francis Rossi from Status Quo, and he had an album out back in the mid 2010s. And he went on tour with it, so he played lots of that and some Status Quo songs that don't get much of an outing, and some of them probably never got an outing with Status Quo. So we'll be having a look at that. So I'll catch you with that later. Bye for now.